What a time to be alive in the world of professional wrestling. Forbidden doors are open, lines are crossed, companies acknowledging other companies, cats and dogs living together, más histeria. Wait a minute, that's a typo. Excuse me, hang on. Mass hysteria. A lot of people's brains broke at the Royal Rumble this year when Jordynne Grace made a shocking appearance in the women's match. This wasn't just some former TNA talent jumping ship. This was the active Knockouts champion, still very much with TNA, now making an impact in the other company. See what I did there? Grace was the first player in what's become a very captivating collaboration between TNA and WWE this year, in particular the NXT brand. From Grace to Joe Hendry to Charlie Dempsey to the Rascals, we've witnessed a crisscrossing the likes of which we've never seen before on this scale. And though we don't know what the long-term ramifications of this union will be just yet, the fact that they're working together at all is shocking to us older fans who are used to seeing everyone from both sides make snide comments and taking shots at each other. From the billionaire Ted skits in 1996 to WCW ripping off WWF gimmicks in 2000 to AEW's frequent references to WWE today, punching upward has always been hip in professional wrestling, and few companies master the art better than TNA, before their current partnership with the worldwide leader, that is. And this week, I'm gonna rank them my top 8 biggest shots TNA ever fired at WWE. Let's cross the line. Number 8. Rhino trashes WWECW. If you're a fan of a certain age, then ECW may have meant a lot to you when it existed. Also, you should take a quick break from this video, pause, and do some light stretching to help your aching bones. WWE famously bastardized the ECW brand when they brought it back in 2006, removing and depushing anything remotely resembling the original Land of Extreme. That didn't sit well with TNA star Rhino, who happened to be the last man to hold both the TV and World Championships in ECW's original run. That summer, Rhino made it known that he had been offered to come back to WWE to be part of the ECW brand, but chose to remain with TNA. But for a guy as intense as the War Machine, you know it wasn't going to end there.
Death to ECW. Long live TNA.
On a July episode of Impact, Rhino got a whole segment to slam Vince McMahon and his vision of ECW, taking what was alleged to be the original championship belt and setting it on fire outside the Impact Zone. Though the moment was purely performative, the actual belt still resides in Rhino's home, it was a huge symbolic gesture to show how he and many others felt about the revival. Can't wait for them to try their own version of that 4 years later, when everyone's older and more broken down. Number 7. The beard is trademarked? Looking back 10 years later, the main event of WrestleMania 30 was truly magical. An emotional, inspirational roller coaster ride where, for the first time in a long time, everything felt right. I still remember it like it was yesterday. Daniel Bryan, his big bushy beard, bum shoulder, wearing his trademark yellow tights, holding that one championship belt up in the air as hundreds of fans chanted his initials. Oh wait, I'm sorry, that wasn't WrestleMania, that was Impact a few days later.
Eric, Eric Young!
With the wrestling world still buzzing about Daniel Bryan's big moment, TNA decided they wanted a piece of that pie, but had to strike while the iron was hot. And so, on a live edition of Impact on April 10th, only 4 days after Mania, a 10-man over-the-top rope gauntlet match was held to see who would get a world title shot at Slammiversary. Eric Young, a longtime fixture of TNA, but by no means a main eventer in waiting, improbably won the bout. But he decided not to wait and demanded the title match for that very night. Sure enough, against all odds, EY picked up the shocking W against Magnus and became world champ for the very first time. Wow, a smaller wrestler with a big beard, beloved by the fan base, having to push through injury to win 2 matches in one night en route to holding the biggest prize in the company? Where have I seen that before? Now, I know what some of you are probably thinking. Surely this hotshot angle has nothing to do with what WWE was doing at this time. After all, Daniel Bryan and Eric Young, 2 very different wrestlers, 2 very different stories. It had to be a coincidence. Well, I'd almost give that to you, except for the fact that Dixie Carter gave the whole thing away 1 week later.
I invented the beard. I am the one who should be receiving big, fat royalty checks from all of those people who are blatantly ripping me off.
You know, Dixie, you probably should have stayed quiet. About a lot of things now that I think about it. The whole thing reeked of desperation by TNA, as if putting the belt on "We Have Daniel Bryan at Home" was going to be received as well by their fans. Sure, on one level, Young deserved it because of his tenure and his loyalty to the company, but did the timing and the overt similarities make the whole thing feel super cheap? Yes! 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 Number 6. Big Fat Oily Guy. Look, I'm going to keep this one brief because honestly, there's not much to discuss. I mean, Daniel Bryan and Eric Young, that's one thing. But of all the other gimmicks and personalities you want to rip off, you're going to rip off Big Dick Johnson? Poor choice of words.
He's not going to be sitting here, is he?
How? How has the company lasted this long? Number 5, the WWE exit interview. Hey, we've all had jobs that sucked, right? And everyone's been there. And once we find a new, better job, one that pays us more or appreciates us more, we can't wait to trash the old place in front of all our new friends. Well, it's the same way in professional wrestling. TNA has long been the home of ex-WWE talent looking to break out and find opportunities that may not have been available to them up north. But while the sensible thing would be to quietly move on and embrace the gift of the future, some wrestlers have taken this new environment as a place to air their grievances in a public forum. Some comments less subtle than others, like when Mr. Anderson, who we covered here a couple weeks ago, won his first world title at Impact.
A little birdie got inside the boss's ear and said, "Hey, I think Kenny might be a little too funny."
And how about Aaron Rex? The former Damien Sandow was arguably one of the biggest drop balls in WWE, as the company failed to capitalize on his potential on multiple occasions. When he finally debuted on Impact, he prefaced his opening speech by saying he wouldn't be talking about his former employer, then went on to drop tons of references to his former employer.
Impact Wrestling Management has done what a few people were too scared to do. Give me a microphone on live TV. Some people have labeled me too entertaining to receive opportunities to compete for world titles. There are some that are preordained to receive opportunity after opportunity after opportunity.
When Matt Hardy debuted in 2011, he called WWE a broken system, way before he himself ever became broken. Then there's that aforementioned Rhino promo where he trashed the company and the ECW title. Hell, the entire EV 2.0 group was seemingly born out of contempt for WWE's burial of the original ECW. There are probably a ton that I'm forgetting, but if there's a beloved former WWE worker who's found a new home at TNA, there's a good chance they've been given some mic time to gripe about their old conditions. The live fans will certainly ooh and ah over this type of forbidden dialogue, but when you've heard it once, you've heard it enough times. Number 4, he's Derek. This may shock some of you, but lots of wrestlers are friends with each other regardless of company affiliation. Sometimes they'll even go to each other's shows, but they'll usually, like stay in the back or something. Remember the Highlanders, Rory and Robbie, the fish out of water Scottish cousins who'd come to WWE in 2006 to seek their fame and fortune? They didn't end up doing much well in the company, and an incident during WrestleMania weekend in 2008 didn't help matters.
Many stars from the sports, from the entertainment world on hand here tonight.
On a live episode of Impact that March, the cameras cut to a shot of Derek Graham Couch, aka Robbie, sitting in the audience of the Impact Zone, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else on the planet. Like most of the other people watching Impact at the time. Boom! TNA had no problem showing a WWE talent on their show as long as they used his government name, even though they didn't benefit from the stunt either. Robbie later admitted he was in a bad place mentally and was practically looking for a way to get fired. It didn't happen immediately, but there was instant heat from this moment, and the Highlanders spent the next several months jobbing in dark matches until they were finally let go later in the year. And the ultimate insult? TNA didn't even give them a look after that. It's the least they could have done. Number 3, Cookiegate. One of the most iconic moments of the Attitude Era happened in 1998 when D-Generation X embarked on their campaign to troll WCW. Who can forget the time they tried to gain an audience with Ted Turner and CNN Tower, or when they drove their Jeep up to an arena where a WCW show was being held trying to get inside. Nothing ever came of it in the moment, but those segments helped get DX over huge as babyfaces, and has since gone down as a pivotal moment in the Monday Night War. Then, 6 years later, it was TNA's turn to do the same thing, kinda.
Get it! Smash it! Smash it to smithereens!
At Turning Point 2004, a fake Mr. McMahon and Triple H went around the Impact Zone looking for a tape of potentially damning footage in order to destroy it. This was in response to a real-life case of WWE threatening legal action against TNA for something they had filmed at Universal Studios and had been crowing about for weeks. What could have happened in that recording that got the folks at Stanford so riled up and caused TNA to spend so much time building up to it? And would it even pay off?
Play that tape. Play Cookiegate right now.
Now everyone knows that one of the best things WWE ever produced was this commercial for the 2005 Royal Rumble, where the superstars dressed up in wigs and did an amazing tribute to West Side Story. Seriously, it's hilarious.
There's gonna be some trouble tonight. A very Royal Rumble, that's right.
That commercial was filmed at Universal, which happened to be the home of the Impact Zone. This prompted TNA to send a friendly welcoming committee with a camera crew, as Shane Douglas, Tracy Brooks, Abyss, and the 3 Live crew went to the soundstage with cookies and balloons.
We come in peace. I just want to try to talk to Vince.
The footage was anything but salacious, as viewers saw the TNA talent steal food from catering and interact with a bunch of blurred-out WWE talent, one of whom was definitely Rey Mysterio. The worst thing about this whole ordeal was BG James repeating the same joke over and over.
You eating mahi-mahi today. I just want to get some mahi-mahi, man. Eating mahi-mahi. Tell somebody if I can get a plate of mahi-mahi in Orlando.
I mean, in fairness, mahi-mahi is just fun to say. Much like when DX invaded WCW in '98, it was all much ado about nothing, only that wasn't nearly as embarrassing as Cookiegate. WWE looked silly for being upset by it, but TNA looked even sillier for devoting so much time to this incident and trying to pass it off as some big win for them. Obviously, it didn't lead to either of their ruin, but it didn't help TNA escape the perception of being the annoying little brother of wrestling companies. Number 2, the Monday Night War 2.0. This regrettable chapter in TNA history was covered at length in a video I did earlier this year, so if you want all the gory details, you can check it out right here. But I'm putting it in this countdown because of the scale of it all. This went way beyond gimmicks or throwaway promo lines. This was a case of a company making a drastic shift directly into the firing line in an attempt to steal some of WWE's Monday night scraps, all while being totally unprepared for the journey. It was an insane gambit on TNA's part and ultimately hurt them more than helped. Ratings did pick back up somewhat once they moved back to Thursdays, but by that point, their reputation was nearly toast. Now, before I reveal the number 1 entry, I wanted to point out that WWE is not above taking shots themselves over the years. In fact, my original idea for this video was to do kind of a half and half thing, showing the biggest shots from each side to the other. But then when doing the research, I realized WWE didn't really do it all that much, and so these were the biggest examples I could find.
Call TNA show, if they have one, which I doubt. I think it airs Sunday night at 4 a.m. in Japan.
My tag team division is full, but I hear that TNA is hiring.
Will the WWE talk about it?
No, they will never talk about that.
Anyway, my number 1 pick for the biggest shot TNA fired at WWE is VKM. For the most part, the entries we've talked about here were one-offs, short-term things that came and went with the wind and were never mentioned again. But in the mid-2000s, Vince Russo and TNA had the idea to take their issues with WWE and turn them into one of the tentpole storylines in the company. In late 2006, BG and Kip James, the former Road Dogg and Billy Gunn, cut a work-shoot promo, aka a woot, declaring they were quitting TNA. But just 2 weeks later, they reappeared as the Voodoo Kin Mafia, a string of words that had next to zero meaning besides the fact that their initials matched those of Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Evidently, the name was cooked up by BG James's kid. What's the matter? Was the family hamster unavailable for comment?
We're bringing war to your front door. VKM versus VKM.
For the next several weeks, nay months, the Jameses cut promo after scathing promo, attacking not just Vince, but also Triple H and Shawn Michaels, upset that WWE had rebooted DX without their involvement. It got so heated that early on, WWE sent a cease and desist order to get them to stop. However, that only further emboldened our boys in the Impact Zone.
Fuck
talk to the fans
Yes,
there?
talk to the people.
Are you sure there'll be any fans there?
Was it funny when they put oil all over a fat naked guy in a thong?
No, it was not.
Thank
Okay.
God. There's hope for you yet.
Yeah.
What about the little skits they put on? Are they any good?
No.
Instead of BG and Kip having actual matches, the two just kept cutting promos on what they called Dumb to the Extreme, doing a series of skits in a similar vein to that classic WCW invasion of '98, trying to sneak into WWE headquarters, hamming it up with fans outside events, and even heckling Triple H at a house show. They even wanted to answer the Hardy Boys' open challenge for a match at ECW's December to Dismember, only for Eminem to be their opponents instead. Honestly, guys, probably for the best you didn't work that one. At Final Resolution, the two took it up another notch, wearing full facial prosthetics to resemble Triple H and HBK, and having a play fight with a mock Spirit Squad, complete with the aforementioned big fat oily guy. Yeah, guys, you show them how dumb that feud was by doing a far worse version of it. The two offered up $1 million for the chance to fight Paul Levesque and Michael Hickenbottom for shootsies. Apparently, TNA had legitimately set aside the million smackers in case they would accept. But why would Hunter and Sean take the money to fight Road Dogg and Billy Gunn for real when they were probably making that much or more on DX merch alone? Passive income, people! Obviously, Triple H and Michaels weren't going to act on this stunt, so VKM continued to amble and ramble for weeks without a payoff in sight. They even tried challenging Michaels to a fight at the Alamo, which led to more zany, pre-taped antics and little else. To their credit, the segments were funny most of the time, and they had no problem rallying TNA fans around their cause. I mean, there was a lot to be upset about with WWE back then. For good or for bad, VKM was the most talked about thing TNA had going for a while, but with no chance of a payoff, especially once Triple H got hurt at the start of 2007, it all just seemed like a bunch of complaining about nothing. They didn't wrestle, they didn't put anyone over but themselves, and in the long run, it did nothing to help TNA's fortunes. You would think they would have at least gotten a tag title run for their efforts, but in all honesty, the two were probably too whacked out to be reliable in the ring, and the team split up in early 2008. But do you know where the New Age Outlaws did win tag team gold again? Why, in WWE in 2014. After all the crap they talked about Shawn, Triple H, and Vince, it blows my mind that these two were ever allowed back into the fold. Road Dogg and Billy Gunn would eventually get their recognition when DX was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2019. But for how long and intense the angle got, all for it to never actually lead to anything, that's why I consider VKM to be the biggest shot TNA ever took on WWE. But what else do you think belongs on this list? Let me know in the comment section below. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up if you like it, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell icon for all the notifications. I'm Brian Zane, and I will see you next time.